We are finally going to talk about Koumei, because I have to at this point. Koumei is out. She's the new Warframe. She's the new headliner for the update, and she is not very good. She is very poor. To clarify before we get into things today, the build I'm going to show kind of makes her function and do the things that she is capable of doing, which is to say not a lot.
Negative damage cap. There we go. Cool. 1 billion. We got it. The moment you get this book, the game breaks. The game just breaks. Out of all things, I was not expecting to deal damage cap with Dante's book on Koumei. That was not on my bingo card for this stream. And then the Breton build. Here's the Breton build, guys. This was doing damage cap. Koumei was released back in October 2024 with mixed reviews. Some people thought she was the pinnacle of Warframe design, while others were right to contradict this by pointing out her abhorrently slow accumulation of decrees, which only benefited the player in endurance-type content like survival or defense. However, since Koumei started spinning her threads of fate, DE has released a new augment mod for her second ability called Omikuji's Fortune, which now allows you to build up decrees much faster than before and adds a whole new dimension of gameplay interaction into her playstyle. So now let's see if Koumei is still Copemei. Before I get into what this augment does, I will give a quick and dirty outline of Koumei and her abilities for the uninitiated. Koumei is a Warframe that can be accessed relatively early on by playing a special type of defense mission that becomes available in Cetus on Earth. Her theme is that of the Fate Weaver, where she can pull on the strings of fate to influence the outcomes of the entire universe. Her kit is mainly focused on crowd control effects, massive status damage, and status spreading. Whenever you cast one of Koumei's abilities, she will also roll a couple of dice. These dice affect the strength of the ability you have just cast, as the total score you get will be summed up and the ability will be buffed. In case you get extra lucky and throw at least 3 6s, you unlock a more powerful version of her abilities that provide an additional effect. Her first ability, which will usually apply a bunch of status procs, will now proc every status effect in the game if you throw a 666. This easily enables Arcane Impetus and is amazing to combo with the mecha set for spreading damage into the septillions, as illustrated by a video from another content creator called Harkov. Make sure to check them out. Her second ability, and by far most powerful ability, will provide you with a challenge that you have to complete, which will be harder with a low dice roll, also including a negative effect, and easier with a high dice roll. Completing the challenge grants you one of the Deviri decrees that can sometimes be completely overpowered, like providing 500% ability strength, double critical hits, or even double status effects. When you throw a 666, it is even easier to get a decree, as the challenge will be immediately completed. I will leave a link in the description to the wiki page, which lists all of the available decrees, so you can have a look at all of these crazy buffs yourself as well. Her third ability spawns protective charms around her that have a 50% chance to avoid damage dealt to you and heal you instead. This ability scales with the dice rolls you have to increase the number of charms. And when you throw a 666, you even get full invulnerability for as long as the ability is active and if you have any charms left. Her fourth is the main source of crowd control and will inflict random status elements on your target, where the total amount of status effects procced is again directly scaled to your dice throws. Upon throwing a 666, you will inflict double the amount of status effects, and your ability will become a radial effect instead of affecting enemies only within your vision cone. Finally, Koumei has an interesting passive where in the bottom right of your screen you will see icons for a primary, secondary and melee weapon, which alerts you that her passive currently applies to that type of weapon in your loadout. Her passive being that she will proc random status effects with the weapon indicated for 60 seconds. This is where I can now finally dive into what her new augment does, and you will understand why this augment is so incredibly good. The augment allows you to decrease the cooldown on your second ability, which can quickly ramp up usually to 2.5 minutes without using the augment. However, with the augment, it's easily possible to complete 2 or even 3 decree challenges in the time it would usually take you to complete a single one. Additionally, denying challenges is now a much more favorable strategy than before, as you can much more easily reset the cooldown timer and roll for something that isn't like getting headshots with a Kuva Brahma. Now, the way we reduce our cooldown is integrated into her kit in a very smart way. To decrease the cooldown, you will need to get kills by the weapon that's actively buffed by Koumei's passive, which, as I explained earlier, is shown in the bottom right of your screen. For me, the way this augment fits into her playstyle makes her one of the most fun and entertaining Warframes to use in any of the long format missions, as you are actively engaging in playstyles that you would never entertain usually, like clinging to walls for wall edge kills or sliding around for kills while sliding. On top of this, the augment forces you to track and actually look at your passive and swap to the correct weapon for the reduced cooldown on your 2, which means her abilities are now fully intertwined with how you interact with the game and the mission. Now, in shorter mission formats like exterminates, many of the same quirks will remain that make Koumei less effective. But with the augment, you will now at least be able to complete a couple more decrees than you would be able to before. In one of my recent streams, I also used Koumei in a long survival where I limited myself to only using an unmodded MK1 Breton whenever I rolled 666s. This caused me to change around my gameplay to keep up life support. In the end, I managed by spamming my 4th ability, and later in the run, I discovered something even more peculiar that allowed me to be fully carried, dealing negative damage cap with even my MK1 Breton. This absurd damage was all facilitated by the use of a Dante Tennospectre, which was able to buff me with the ability Word Warden, which apparently inherits all of the decrees that Koumei is able to get in terms of weapon and ability strength buffs. If you are unfamiliar with the Word Warden ability, I'd recommend watching one of my previous videos I did on this exact ability and how it got buffed in the Techrot Anchor update. Anyways, this opens up another can of worms, which is that some decrees for Koumei will be multiplicative to the equipped mods in your loadout. So far, I feel like I've been able to single out one decree that's multiplicative, which is the decree that increases your fire rate based on the amount of cumulative shots fired by your weapon. Now, there might be many more of these crazy interactions, and I'm almost certain they have to occur, as damage with a Koumei that has all decrees is nothing short of unbelievable. However, it's also extremely challenging to test this accurately, as we don't have a testing environment where we can single out decrees to test them individually. All you have to really take away is that more decrees equals more incredible power. So to answer the question if the Copemei is still real, in my opinion, DE added an amazing augment that greatly reduces the cope and massively buffs the hope. That now, after some time, Koumei is finally in the state that she maybe should have been in from the beginning. Now, of course, I won't close out the video without discussing my personal favorite loadout for Koumei, which is as follows. For my weapons, I enjoy using the Coda Best Assist as a primary, which becomes absolutely incredible with all of the decrees slapped onto it. The Acarius Prime for the secondary is one of the most insane AoE spams you have ever seen. Again, especially when you apply a bunch of decrees on it. And finally, for the melee, I liked using the Okina Incarnon with melee influence for easily completing all of the melee weapon challenges that you get from the second ability. For the companions, I was either using the Pharaoh Predicite with the mecha set on it, as well as Anabolic Pollination to easily provide toxin damage for toxin damage challenges. Or, as always, I would recommend the trusty Panzerfull Pavila for priming of enemies with viral damage. For Archon shards on Koumei, you are completely free to use whatever you feel is necessary. But personally, I like using 2 Emerald Archon shards for armor strip, 1 Amber Archon shard for cast speed, and 2 Crimson Archon shards for ability strength. For the Koumei build, I can recommend using the Archon mods, especially Archon Continuity and Archon Stretch, to get easy access to corrosive procs and energy regen. And outside of that, I would build for a positive range, a good bit of duration, and some strength. I also used fast deflection in combination with catalyzing shields, which together with your third ability make you practically immortal, as the shield regen time is shorter than the shield gate and the charm invulnerability times combined. For the arcanes, I went with Arcane Impetus, which is in my opinion now the best in slot for any Koumei build, and I used Molt Augmented for the funny 300+% roar buffs. However, this second arcane choice is fully up to you, and survivability options like Arcane Aegis are also recommended, which is what I used for my super long survival on stream. Helminth options for Koumei are up to you too, but in general you can never go wrong with the following options. I like using Roar for additional ability damage, status damage, and weapon damage damage in general, which as I said can easily go up to 200% or more in endurance missions. Shock Trooper is now also a very good slot since it became multiplicative to other forms of electricity damage for the electricity damage over time effect. Evade is an option to put over your third ability if you want to be ensured of easy survivability. Make sure that if you use Evade, you also pair it with a Scourge or Scourge Prime, as well as a good secondary. And if you have problems with energy sustain, you can of course use Nourish, or if you are feeling a little bit more spicy, Fractured Blast from Citrine can be a lot of fun too. Outside of Evade, I would always subsume over her first or fourth ability, depending on whether you enjoy a more mobile playstyle, in which case you keep the fourth, or a more campy passive playstyle, in which case you keep the first. Remember, if you subsume over the fourth, that Precision Intensify might become a good option for your build. With that being said, I want to thank you all for watching this video. Let me know if you think the Copemei is still real, and enjoy stacking those decrees and becoming an immortal god. See you in the next one. Bye. As always, thanks to all channel members for supporting the channel. If you are looking to become a member, please find the join button below the video.